It's always great when we get to answer questions we didn't even know we had, and this question is just such a case. Someone asked us, how were snakebites treated in ancient times? And we couldn't help but wonder ourselves. So we did some research, and it turns out that there was no one way to treat snakebites in ancient times, because there were many different ways. It just depended on where you were and what time period we're talking about. Also, who bit you. Some bites were more serious than others. As you can imagine, getting bitten by a deadly snake, like an eastern brown snake or a black mamba, is a lot more of a problem than being bitten by a garter snake. But these are things the ancients knew nothing about. They didn't even know what caused snake bites to be so dangerous. They thought it might have something to do with bad air or cold temperatures, so they tried all kinds of remedies to avoid those things. In ancient Egypt, if someone was bitten by a venomous snake, they would immediately be taken to a temple, where a priestess would suck the poison out of their wound. Now, this is pretty nasty, but it makes sense. You want to get that venom out of your body as fast as possible. And what better way to do that than with your mouth? The problem is, this didn't really work. But hey, at least they were trying. Sometimes they also used leeches, which did help draw blood out of the wound, but didn't actually remove the venom itself. And sometimes they used herbal remedies, things like onions, garlic, figs, and poppy seeds, none of which have any effect on snake venom. In fact, some of them may have made things worse. The Egyptians also believed that snake bites were caused by evil spirits, so they tried to drive those spirits out with incantations and amulets. This obviously didn't work either. Still, the priests got paid by the patient's family, so everyone was happy. Well, maybe not the person who got bitten though. Across the Mediterranean, in ancient Greece, the old men had a different theory. They believed that snake bites were caused by an imbalance of the four humors, which was a medical theory that was popular at the time. Basically, the body had four humors: blood, phlegm, black and yellow bile, and when they were out of balance, you got sick. Now, this wasn't entirely wrong. Like we understand now that snake venom affects how your blood clots, but back then, they didn't know anything about blood clotting, so they thought the best way to treat a snake bite was to bleed the victim. So they put them on a diet of wine and raw fish and made them exercise until they were exhausted. Then they covered the bite with a cloth soaked in vinegar and salt water, which would both dry out the area and also cause even more bleeding. Now, this treatment is a little less pleasant than the Egyptian method, but it has to be said that some of these methods actually worked. Like we know now that bleeding the victim isn't a good idea. It just spreads the venom around. But the vinegar and salt water part actually does help kill bacteria and reduce inflammation. So it's a good thing that they did that. But overall, these treatments were just kind of a mix of everything they thought might work, and most of the time they didn't. Now, during the Middle Ages, they came up with a new treatment called the Tremolite technique. Now, this technique involves sucking the poison out of the wound, but then putting a splint on the area and keeping it tight for 10 days. This actually makes a lot of sense. Keeping the area immobilized helps keep the venom from spreading, and keeping it tight helps keep the pain down. Unfortunately, the Tremolite technique was never proven to work, and it probably didn't. But still, it was a step in the right direction. Finally, in the 18th century, they came up with the idea of using a tourniquet. This was actually a pretty good idea, since cutting off blood flow to the area will stop the venom from spreading. The problem was that they didn't know how long to leave the tourniquet on for or how to properly apply it, so it didn't really work very well. Even today, we don't recommend using a tourniquet unless you absolutely have to. There's a chance that if you leave it on too long, you could cause more damage than good. So what we have to ask then is, how did people survive snake bites before modern medicine? Well, it turns out that most people didn't. Snake bites were one of the leading causes of death in pre-modern times, accounting for hundreds of thousands of deaths each year. That's why there are so many myths and legends about snake bites. People were terrified of them. And the worst part is that most of the treatments people used actually made things worse. It was until the 19th century that they finally figured out how to safely extract the venom from a snake bite. And it wasn't until the 20th century that they developed But even today, snake bites are responsible for 100,000 deaths each year, mostly in rural areas of Asia and Africa, where people don't have access to good medical care. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please stay tuned for more. We've got lots more great stuff coming up, and if you've got a question you want us to answer, send it in and we might use it in a future episode. Who knows, maybe you'll learn something, even if it's just how many ways there are to die a horrible and painful death. Thanks for watching. See ya. What happens when the two most venomous animals on Earth go head to head? Will it be the deadliest snake or the most feared lizard that will come out on top? Let's find out. It was love at first sight for the female King Cobra and the male Komodo Dragon. They were both incredibly attracted to each other. But the dragon was already married and would never leave his mate. He told her this, but she didn't care. She wanted him no matter what. The King Cobra knew he shouldn't get involved with the dragon, but he couldn't resist her beauty. He had to have her. So the King Cobra confronted the dragon and told him to get lost. The dragon was furious. He attacked the cobra and bit him hard on the neck. The cobra hissed and lashed out with his fangs. The dragon roared and tossed the cobra away like a rag doll. He was too strong for the snake. The cobra tried to bite him again, but the dragon caught his fangs in his jaws and smashed them against his skull. The cobra bled and retreated. The dragon thought he had scared the snake away, but the cobra kept coming back. He was relentless and wouldn't give up, so the dragon had to do something drastic. He picked up the cobra in his mouth and threw him into the jungle. The cobra was gone. The dragon returned to his family, but they weren't happy to see him. They scolded him for bringing danger to their home. They told him to leave or they would call the police. The dragon had no choice but to wander off into the jungle alone. Meanwhile, the cobra was hiding in the bushes. He was badly injured and needed help. Luckily, he found a small tribe of cobras, who took him in and nursed him back to health. The leader of the tribe told the cobra that he was too reckless and had put himself in danger for nothing. The cobra knew he was right, but he couldn't help himself. He loved the dragon's wife and would do anything for her. The leader of the cobras told the cobra that there was only one way to win the dragon's wife away from him. He had to defeat him in battle. The cobra knew this was true, but he was afraid. The dragon was too powerful and he was still weak from his injuries, but he had no choice. If he wanted the dragon's wife, he had to face him. So the cobra trained day and night. He practiced his fighting skills and ate special herbs to make himself stronger. After weeks of training, he felt ready to take on the dragon. He went back to the dragon's house, but the dragon wasn't there. The cobra asked around and learned that the dragon was at his mother's house. The cobra set off to find the dragon's mother. He slithered through the jungle and soon came across a clearing. In the middle of the clearing was a huge cave. The cobra knew this was the dragon's lair. He took a deep breath and went inside. The dragon's mother was sitting on a pile of gold. She looked up at the cobra and smiled. She knew why he was there. The cobra said, "I want your son." The dragon's mother laughed and said, "He's not here, but if you can beat me, he'll be yours." The cobra couldn't believe his ears. He had come to challenge the dragon, but now he had to face his mother first. The dragon's mother lunged at the cobra. Her claws were sharp and long, and she slashed them across his body. The cobra hissed and dodged her attacks. He was fast and agile, and he used his speed to evade her blows. The fight was intense, but the cobra knew he couldn't win. The dragon's mother was too powerful. The cobra tried to flee, but the dragon's mother blocked the exit. She trapped the cobra in her lair and began to attack him. The cobra was outnumbered and exhausted. He had bitten the dragon's mother in self-defense, but it hadn't worked. The dragon's mother was still after him. He had to do something drastic. The cobra spit venom at the dragon's mother. The venom was deadly, and the dragon's mother collapsed to the ground. She lay there for a moment, then got up and ran away. The cobra was victorious, but he was badly injured. His body was covered in cuts and bruises, and he was bleeding. The cobra crawled out of the cave and into the jungle. He needed help. Luckily, he soon found the dragon's wife. She was beautiful, just as the cobra remembered. He told her that her husband had bitten him, and that he needed help. The dragon's wife was sorry to hear that, but she told the cobra that he would have to wait until her husband returned. The cobra didn't want to wait. He was in too much pain. So he told the dragon's wife to lead him to her husband. She agreed, and together they set off into the jungle. When the dragon heard that the cobra had challenged his mother, he was furious. He confronted the cobra and demanded to know why he had done it. The cobra explained that he had bitten him because he was in pain and that he needed help. The dragon didn't believe him, but the dragon's wife told the dragon that the cobra was telling the truth. She had seen him being attacked by her mother. The dragon was ashamed of his mother's behavior. He apologized to the cobra and invited him to live with him and his family. The cobra accepted, and soon he was welcomed into the dragon's family. From that day on, the cobra and the dragon became best friends. They hung out together every day, and the cobra even got along with the dragon's wife. They all lived happily ever after. You're probably wondering how a snake can be friends with a dragon. Well, it's simple. They just accept each other for who they are. The cobra is venomous and the dragon is too. They also both have incredible fighting skills. They're both very powerful predators. They also both have a lot in common. They're both very intelligent, and they're both very loyal to their friends. So the next time you see a cobra and a dragon fighting, remember that they may look different, but they're actually very similar. They're both dangerous, powerful creatures. They're both venomous and they're both very skilled fighters. So don't get between a cobra and a dragon. You never know when they might team up on you. This story teaches us that we shouldn't judge others based on their appearance. The cobra and the dragon were both considered to be evil creatures, but in reality, they were both good guys. They were both kind and generous, and they were both willing to help others. So don't judge a book by its cover. You never know what kind of person you might meet. Now check out who would win, King Cobra vs Lion, or watch another video instead.